Hello. It's Halloween here, uh, All Hallows Eve, and tomorrow will be All Saints. And given that, I thought it would be appropriate to speak about how yoga is really about all of ourselves. So, one of the things that I find rather annoying, disheartening, is the way that yoga is perceived in the world today. And often people think it is the pursuit only for middle-class yummy-mummy types, people who like to wear recycled, vegan-friendly, expensive designer leggings and put pictures of themselves posing in postures that are not particularly accessible for the average human being all over social media. And yoga is much more than that. Yoga means joining. So it means joining all the parts. Yoga means unity. And the only real unity is one that includes everything. So it has to include all of ourselves. So the basic practice in yoga is to pay attention. You have to pay attention to all of yourself, including those parts that habitually we have been blinkered to or we've just put in our back pocket and not paid much attention to. Because the idea is if we want to foster unity, togetherness, cohesion, balance, harmony, if we want to foster yoga, then the only real, genuine, sustainable yoga is one that includes and reconciles all the parts. Because if it leaves some parts out, then they're going to come out sideways. They're going to manifest in a perhaps shocking or disturbing or deharmonizing way. So today, I'd just like to basically emphasize that yoga is not about execute any particular shape in space. Rather, yoga is about inhabiting space in a way that invites a deepening of our capacity to stay in a state of robust and dynamic equilibrium, of robust and dynamic harmony. We might say to stay in rhythm, even as the beat and the tempo of life changes, as it inevitably will. So yoga asana, the posture of yoga, the attitude of yoga, is really to inhabit space, whatever space we're in the steadiest, most sustainably easeful way that we possibly can. And we can only do that if we genuinely pay attention to all of ourselves. Because if we neglect a certain part of ourselves, then that's likely to come out sideways, as sometimes people say. So today is Halloween. People dress up as ghosts and goblins and ghouls and witches and such. And it's interesting, I was reminded, Julia Barclay, a British woman I know who lives in, as far as I'm aware, she lives in Ojai in Southern California. She sent out a newsletter today in which she mentioned that Shiva, who's also known as Nataraja, the Lord of the Dance, he has an entourage, his gunners, they're called in Sanskrit, and the gunners are a crazy wild bunch. All shapes, sizes, fragrances, temperaments, proclivities. But Shiva loves them all. Because he is Yogeshwara, he's the Lord of Yoga, which means he has integrated all parts of himself, the good, the bad, and the very ugly. The good, the bad, and the things that you don't quite know how to describe them. The things that are acceptable societally, the things that are not so acceptable. Shiva has included them all. He has reconciled them all. Just like Ganesha, Shiva's son, reconciles all the parts, all the gunners. He includes them. And this is the practice of yoga, to reconcile all parts of ourself. Now, in order to reconcile all parts of ourself, the first practice in yoga is pasya. This is the Sanskrit imperative form of the verb to look, to see. Look, pay attention. Shrinu, listen. So stop, look, and listen. The Green Cross Code, it was called when I was growing up at school. How to cross the road safely. Stop, look, and listen. Look all around. Not just two ways. Look into all parts of yourself. That's the practice of yoga. Including those parts of yourself that you might prefer to kid yourself don't even exist. Those parts of yourself that could be destructive, that could be deemed unacceptable. Those parts of yourself that need to be integrated to make you a safe person. Because as a human being, we have to remember where we've come from. And sometimes people have this idea, oh, we don't need to be able to, we don't need to, like, for example, on a day like today, some people might dress up as axe-wielding murderers. The same people might otherwise say, oh yeah, I would never hurt anybody. But I don't think that's true. Because what happens if you're a mother or a father or a brother or a sister or a son or a daughter, and your beloved son or daughter or your beloved sister or brother is threatened and somebody attacks them? What will you do? I think it's quite likely that you will respond violently and decisively. And if some people come to threaten your newborn child, you will probably murder them to protect your child. We have the capacity to wreak havoc and destruction. We have the capacity also to wreak havoc and destruction in less extreme, obvious ways, but ways that are perhaps more pernicious and insidious. Because perhaps our turning a blind eye to parts of ourselves that we prefer not to have to bother to deal with actually creates in the long run bigger problems. So it's All Souls evening. Tomorrow will be All Saints Day. And I would just like to share the idea that yoga means every day, again and again, do the work of looking as best we can into all parts of ourselves. Because when we courageously, persistently, doggedly show up to keep looking into all parts of ourselves, then we can start integrating more of ourselves step by step. We can start inviting more and more togetherness and cohesion. And as far as I understand from the teachings of yoga and from my own exploration in life, is the more that we manage to do that, the more cohesive we do become. Of course, as we go along that process, we will notice our own incohesion more vividly. And that will be quite disturbing. It could even be horrifying. But we notice what we're ready to see. And the practice of steadily looking, investigating, steels us for the necessary work of harmonizing all those parts. So today and tomorrow and every day, may we have the courage to stop, look, and listen. To stop long enough to pause, to check, am I just running on autopilot? Or am I actually acting here how I would like to be in the world? To stop and pause long enough to check, is my head, my heart, and my guts at one here? Are they all in accord? Is this an action that's really in tune with my conscience? Or am I running too fast to be able to heed the input of my conscience? Or have my autopilot habits become so ingrained that it becomes sometimes difficult for me to discern the voice of conscience from my tricky mind? And if that's the case, what can I do to rehabilitate my connection to conscience? This is practice. It's working with all of who we are so that we can inhabit whatever space we're in, whatever position or posture we find ourselves in. We can inhabit it with an attitude which is more likely to invite and deepen a sustained and nourishing harmony. Thank you.